Welcome everybody to Remember That Guy. I'm James. I got Justin Diaz here with me, and we have our good friend Xavier joining us today to talk about some guys. Before we get to the guys, Diaz, how are you doing? Do you have anyone? Before we remember, do you have anyone making memories for you right now?
So making memories for me currently is Amanda Stavely with the help of the Public Investment Fund (PIF). Buying Newcastle, my favorite soccer team.
I did see you tweeting about this yesterday. Yes.
So
Tune Army.
We can get into all the Saudi Arabia issues at another time. But what it does immediately mean for the football team is that we have ownership that will invest in the club, which is incredible to see. It was great to see the scenes in Newcastle yesterday. Fans gathering outside the stadium. So was one of the few times I've experienced FOMO in my life was not being able to be there for that. So very excited for all my friends across the pond, Geordie's, Toon Army, up the Mags. Let's go.
I'm glad to hear that, because the one concern I have with that is the very provincial feel of English football a lot of the time. So I as long as the fans are happy, honestly, cool. Yes, again, the money is bad. It's from bad people. I think we can say that. But, I mean, if they're going to spend it on anything, and if they're going to make the fans happy, it's not the worst thing that all of that can go to. No. It is a very exciting thing, because there's just no way, it seems to me, to be competitive without that kind of money behind you at this point.
Right. To amend a famous quote, there is no ethical fandom under capitalism. So
I love it. Absolutely love it. For me, I am going to go ahead and say someone making memories for me. It's football season, and I'm going to pick John Harbaugh, specifically of the Baltimore Ravens right now. And what John Harbaugh has kind of, I think, done with his mentality the last 2 weeks that has mattered to me is we all know about the NFL record 66-yard field goal that Justin Tucker booted just ever so barely through the
not uprights. The most important record they have.
And that's exactly the thing. The next week, we in the waning moments of the game, thanks to an Anthony Averett AA interception, we got the one last play, and they ran the Lamar sweep to the left side and picked up, I think, 5 yards to finish at 102 for the day. So they do have now tied the record for 43 straight NFL games. And a lot of people were asking Lamar and asking John Harbaugh about it after the game. And Lamar, even immediately after the game, now he's like, oh, yeah, it's awesome. Let's take a record from the Steelers. From our rival, too? Yes, totally. He actually said that, and I really appreciate that. But he and a couple of the other players were questioning it initially. And John Harbaugh went out and said, for the guys that are playing in the game and for the people that came out to Denver that day, and he said this in the week before, the people who came out and saw that in Detroit, they're gonna remember that kick for the rest of their lives. Maybe we should have taken a Hail Mary shot instead. But he also knew that he had this incredible kicker, Justin Tucker. I think kind of inarguably, I think he the other week decided he's now the best kicker in NFL history.
I would interject to say the comparison I would make is I would say Tucker is to Vinatieri as Mahomes is to Brady. In terms of greatness and significant kicks, if you look at it that way, but pure leg talent, pure arm talent, you would take the Mahomes Tucker side.
I will point out he has a much larger body of work than Patrick Mahomes. And that kick in the Denver 2012 divisional round game, he's had his share of momentous kicks. He is 16 for 16 in the final minute of the fourth quarter or overtime. He has made, I believe, 49 straight in the fourth quarter at this time. I'm just saying. Anyway, John Harbaugh's got this guy. He's like, you're great. let me give you a moment to be great. Let me give this team the week later like a moment to be. He's recognizing something I think that's very important, which is that, in a zero-sum thing like sports fandom, it's important to find the other things to enjoy. And he's trying to seize on those moments, and I don't know what other like dusty old ass record he's gonna pull out of his fucking pocket this week. Lamar will make like 4 pass attempts in the first minute while under pressure, and we'll find out that no one's done that since 1972. I don't know. But I appreciate his
Johnny U.
Yeah, I appreciate his attention to making sure that like that we appreciate that at all times we're watching sports, we're watching history get made, even if it doesn't seem momentous. When you seek it out like that, it's a lot better. So yeah, I thank you, John Harbaugh. Thank you for making some lovely memories. If you want to know how I will remember that 66-yard kick, it was at me and my fiance's engagement party, and we were all watching it on a single cell phone that 10 of us were circled around, and I collapsed to the ground laughing when it happened. Just could not breathe for about a minute. It's incredible.
The added drama of it hitting the crossbar and having the additional second of like, which way is it gonna fall? Like,
and we couldn't see that but we just heard it hit the crossbar. I was like, oh, and yeah, subtle roller coaster. But yeah, those are some memories right now. However, we want to remember some guys. And Xavier, why don't we? You are our reigning champion for the best guy, bringing out your boy from the Diamondbacks last time, which was incredible. Scab strike breaking history. So please, our good friend Xavier, our currently recovering from a painful wild card loss Yankees fan Xavier, what guy do you have for us today?
All right, I'm excited to tell you about my guy, but first I want to give a quick shout out to Ricardo Pepi, who is the next great American hope. Scored 18-year-old Mexican-American soccer player, scored 2 goals against Jamaica in the World Cup qualifier last night. This after scoring the winning goal on the road in Honduras in a World Cup qualifier last month.
Honduras is not an easy place to go play either.
No, the U.S. almost always loses there. And so the U.S., despite starting off the World Cup qualifying with 2 straight draws and a lot of panic, they are now at the top of the table over 4 games. And it is very exciting because our team is all 18, 19, and 20-year-olds. Best players yesterday were 18-year-old Ricardo Pepi, 18-year-old Yunus Musa, and 20-year-old Serginho Dest. And we did that all missing Christian Pulisic and Gio Reyna, who are our 2 best players, who are also 21 and 17. So
perfect. That was my one question, because Pulisic was, when you said the next great American hope, like that's the last guy I heard referred to as the next great American hope. And
not a striker though.
Okay, word. All right. So he is still 21 though. He is still like, we can still be banking off this. We're getting multiple next great American hopes all melded together. I love to hear that. We're gonna make the World Cup this time, right?
It would be very tough not to.
Okay.
I won't say that, but we better not. We better not mess it up at this point.
All right, cool. I appreciate that level of confidence from you all. International soccer is probably the hardest part of soccer for me to follow. Like the leagues I can really keep up with because there's, a specific league's feed. But man, it's tough sometimes that international. So I appreciate this. Thank you for letting me know that, Xavier, very much so.
But so this was unintentional, but it actually runs into my guy.
Okay.
Because the U.S. has had a hard time creating strikers for the longest time. Even in our last great generation, Josie was good, but never fully reached his potential. But one of the reasons we missed the World Cup was because we essentially had a lost generation. People who should have been in their prime, in their mid to late 20s at the time of the 2018 World Cup, who never really developed. And the guy that I brought today is one of those guys. You remember Juan Agudelo?
Juan Agudelo. Do I remember Juan Agudelo?
Yeah, I vaguely remember that, which, given that we're talking about soccer, is impressive.
Already an elite name. Just the Agudelo, like it has the perfect up down, 4 syllables. Love a 4 syllable last name in
And was
7 letters. What a name!
Was he around the
What a
same
guy!
time as Freddie Adu? Like, I remember were they teammates at all, or am I making that up?
I think they technically played on the same team, same U.S. squad maybe once.
Okay. So very brief overlap.
But yeah, not a big overlap. He's the generation after Freddie Adu.
Okay. So we've already experienced some massive heartbreak about our most recent American Next Hope, and then here we have Agudelo.
Yes. Juan Agudelo, born November 23rd, 1992, in Manizales, Colombia. I think that's the same week that our good friend Justin Diaz was born. Am I right?
Sounds about right.
Nice.
In the neighborhood.
So he moved from Colombia to New Jersey at the age of 7, and then he joined the Red Bulls Academy at the age of 14. This was back when academies were just starting out. The first 10, 15 years of MLS didn't really have academies. That's hence the reason for the MLS Super Draft.
It's super, all right.
Now all MLS teams have their own academies, but the Red Bulls was one of the first. You get that with the Red Bulls money.
Yeah, quick interjection. Which sponsored name is dumber, the Anaheim Mighty Ducks or the New York Red Bulls? Because they're both pretty dumb.
Well, the thing about Red Bulls is that Red Bull just owns like 9 sports teams, and they're all Red Bull something.
Yeah, and it's pretty silly.
Red Bull Leipzig.
It's a recognizable brand name. Mighty Ducks was named after a Disney movie when Disney owned a team.
To be fair, though, the thing it was named after was at least related to the sport before it was named after it.
Fair enough.
It's not like they have, for instance, I don't know, the New Jersey Monsters, sponsored by Monster Energy. Although that would kind of work. I mean, you could. Would it be that far from like the Dallas Stars and the Minnesota Wild look right now? I don't know. Monster could sponsor a hockey team. Hey, Monster, sponsor a hockey team.
I would say like lacrosse feels more up Monster's alley. Like,
ooh, you are absolutely correct. I am sorry. Thank you for showing me where I was wrong. It is absolutely lacrosse.
I could just see, so if we're going with our New Jersey-based team, be just the Montclair Monsters. We're ready to go.
Montclair is where
get some balls
the Red Bull 2 plays. So Montclair State University, home of Red Bull 2 and the Red Bull Academy. So
all of this is just full circle. This is beautiful.
Yeah,
all connected. Ouroboros. But back to Juan Agudelo.
Please, sorry.
He made his senior debut in a U.S. Open Cup game against the Philadelphia Union at the age of 17 on April 27, 2010. He was the second ever homegrown player for the New York Red Bulls and the first to ever actually make their senior debut. James, I don't know if you know what homegrown players are, but MLS
coming up through the academy, essentially, right?
Yeah, MLS's salary structure is really, really weird. Where you have a set salary limit, but there are certain rules that allow you to go over that limit. So, say the salary cap is $500,000. But you can sign 3 designated players who are really, they're supposed to be like the high end players that you
we're talking
like a bunch of money to, but their cap amount is limited to a certain number so it help you stay under the salary cap. Homegrown players are also exempt from the salary cap because they come through your academy.
Okay, so it is similar to, say, a mid-level exception in the NBA, or a veteran exception, or a trade exception, something along those lines.
Kind of, yeah.
All right.
So Agudelo was the second ever homegrown for Red Bulls, but first to actually make the first team. He had a pretty rapid rise. He ended up making his he made his debut for the U.S. men's national team senior team at November 17th, 2010, as a sub against South Africa in the Nelson Mandela Challenge. He scored the equalizing goal in a 1-1 game. At the time, he was the youngest scorer in national team history.
I want to make it clear I'm not mocking Nelson Mandela. That just sounds like something that would be going on at TikTok where like you're miming a old speech of his. Challenge. Yeah, I don't know if any like Nelson Mandela speeches have recently gone viral. I'm sure from what I've largely heard of his speeches, he was spitting fire. So like, yeah, fuck yeah, let's get Nelson Mandela trending.
Bring him back.
Yeah, so 17 years old, he's made his senior debut for the Red Bulls. He made his senior debut for the U.S. men's national team. Everyone's thinking, he could be the next big USA striker after Josie Altidore, who also came through the New York ranks back when they were the Metro Stars. And I actually saw him play. He scored the equalizer at a 1-1 game against Argentina at the Meadowlands in 2011. I was at this game with a high school buddy of mine who was Argentinian and his family, who were also all Argentinian, sitting in the Argentina section, which was very fun because I got to see Lionel Messi play, and also the U.S. didn't lose. It was because a teenager scored a goal for us.
Hey, you didn't lose to Lionel Messi. Fuck yeah, that's a win.
For a first 12 months of a professional career, this is I'm sure you're going to get to it, but I'm mind blown as to how this guy did not turn out to be more than just a guy and become a stud.
So he ended up making 14 appearances for the U.S. men's national team in 2011 alone. He was in every single game, and he was getting brought along pretty slowly at Red Bulls because, again, he was still very young. But in November of 2011, he went on training stint with both Liverpool and Stuttgart of the German Bundesliga, and it looked like he was going to get signed by either Liverpool or Stuttgart. Then there was some rumors that Celtic, one of the two big teams in Scotland, wanted him. And then surprisingly, he got traded in May of 2012 to Chivas, USA. The reasons why the Red Bulls traded him: essentially, they had Thierry Henry as their main striker at the time. Despite being nearly, 34 years old at the time, Thierry Henry was still by far our best player and almost certainly the best player in MLS. Because
I pretty much assume if it's a soccer player whose name I recognize, I assume that they just wreck shit. That's how they've reached my sphere. Just
Thierry Henry came over at a very old compared to a lot of people who come over, but because he's Thierry Henry, he's just great and was fantastic. Yeah. So he got traded. So Juan Agudelo gets traded to Chivas. I'm sure you don't know a lot about Chivas. Chivas were a really weird MLS expansion team that were essentially Chivas Guadalajara is one of the biggest clubs in Liga MX in Mexico, and they made a essentially junior club as an MLS expansion team in LA called Chivas USA, essentially to tap into the Mexican diaspora in Los Angeles.
Okay,
did not work.
We love some good pandering.
No Fernando Mania for this one.
Chivas had one of the lowest fandoms, lowest support. It got folded. It's gone. It no longer exists. So Agudelo's time at Chivas was not great. But still, he was getting, a lot of buzz about a big move to the UK. Apparently, he was really, really close to a move to Scotland and Celtic, but it just didn't happen. But he ended up getting after a year. He ended up getting traded to New England. But now he's at his third club in 2 years. Not what
the
you
revolution.
Want as not what you want as a 20-year-old. But regardless, he actually did end up getting a Premier League move. He got signed by Stoke City in August of 2013. Stoke at the time been well established in the Premier League. Since then, they have not done so well and been relegated, but they were around Newcastle's level for a while.
Okay.
Problem was, he couldn't get a work permit to play to actually play in the UK because of his age, and because he hadn't played enough games for the US. So they immediately sent him out to the Dutch league, and so he played half a season in the Dutch league.
Oh, quick interjection. Was this a English government rule, or was this a Premier League rule that he wasn't able to come?
So this is so the English government sets rules for work permits for players, and they have different rules in conjunction with English FA, where essentially it goes based on team country's FIFA ranking and how often that they've played for this country in the past couple of years. It's like if you're coming from a place where that's like top 10, you only have to have played like 30% of the games. If it's 11 to 30, you have to have played 50%. If it's a lower ranked team, you had to have played like 75%. It's a really weird formula that they use. It's only gotten more complex since Brexit, but this was all pre-Brexit, so we don't have to really get into that right now.
That is I know you got to find a way to make numbers happen. Sometimes that's so wild. They're like, your country is too shitty at soccer for enough of those games to have counted yet. Like we don't know that you're legitimate. That's how bad your country is at soccer.
Like I have two thoughts on it, and and the first one is, okay, it's England. They would make any kind of exception to get soccer talent in. But then the other side of it is England takes their soccer so serious that they're not going to let anybody just wander in and disgrace their game. That's incredible.
Yeah, so he couldn't get the work permit, went on loan to the Dutch Eredivisie, did half a season there. But again, to get a work permit, still couldn't do it. So Stoke canceled his contract so he could go somewhere else. So he never appeared in the Premier League at all, or even in any cup competitions. Just could not play in England, and he found himself without a team. And so he ended up missing out on an entire year of playing soccer between April 2014 and April 2015. And he ended up back in New England a year later. So at the age of 22, he's gone from debuting as a 17-year-old with the Red Bulls and the national team, playing a full season in 2011 with the Red Bulls and 14 games with the national team. Then Chivas, where nothing happened. Then a year at New England, then a year trying to play at Stoke but couldn't, and a year doing nothing, and then a year back at New England, all by the age of 22. So that's really not good for a kid during the most prime years of development in soccer terms. And since then, he's been in MLS. He's for the past 7 seasons he played for New England, Miami, Minnesota. He's had a solid, okay career. He scored 35 goals, 16 assists in 177 games. But he's only appeared for the U.S. a couple times since then. More than half of his appearances all came in that 1 year in 2011, and he did end up getting a Gold Cup winners medal in 2017.
Oh yeah,
he didn't really play. He was just in the squad, and he got the medal.
I mean, I feel like for some people are like, oh, that's great. Now, like, some dudes who row the bench on, like, teams and get rings seem to fucking dig that. And then, I don't know, I feel like some people might think, oh, but what did I catch? I'm always interested by what does someone on the peripheries of any kind of championship or trophy, like, feel about that trophy.
It's one of those things where if in a vacuum, solid 10-year career in MLS, playing for your country 20-something times, having a couple goals, getting a Gold Cup winners medal, riding the bench. And technically he's the third highest scoring homegrown player of all time behind Giassi Zardes and Diego Fagundes. So in a vacuum, that's a solid career. That's an okay career. When you're 18 years old, you've already scored multiple goals, played in every game for your country that year, training with Liverpool, hoping to make a big money move to Liverpool, and this is where you're at when you're 28, 29. Like,
it feels as though something was squandered. There's definitely a feeling of unrealized potential, we can say. Damn, that's a good, not tragic arc. I appreciate that it's not a tragic arc. It's like very quickly just kind of a plateau, and just kind of stays there. Word.
Juan Agudelo.
Juan Agudelo.
I love that name.
It's a hell of a guy, yeah. Phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. I appreciate knowing more about soccer. I know I need to be better educated, and I do genuinely try to follow it, but god damn, there is a lot. There is a whole fucking lot of it.
So many leagues. There's so many leagues.
Correct me if I'm incorrect, but there is soccer at all times, right? Like, what's the longest stretch of time between major soccer games? Like, is there ever more than a couple weeks?
So, the Premier League runs, August through May. So I guess technically June, July would be 2 months it's off. But even then, that's when that's obviously when the major international competitions are happening.
That was what I would think. I have the
too.
And that's something I love about it. I think it's incredibly cool. It is so phenomenal to see just this constant churn, because I feel like there's this effort here in North America to make a constant churn out of a lot of our leagues, but you end up having to do that with just the boring shit that happens in the off season sometimes. Whereas at least if it's happening there is genuine soccer or football at all times. Football. I'll make sure to say it that way. I can't say football, but I'll say football when we refer to it. Wonderful. Diaz, I'm happy to go next if you'd like, or if you'd like to take it. It's what you feeling? What you feeling?
I will go.
Okay.
So, this guy, one of the greatest athletes to ever come from the island of Hispaniola, came to the Americas at a young age to hone his craft and his sport. Turned out to be a very powerful force in his sport. Of course, I'm talking about Slammin' Sammy Dalembert, not Sosa.
Ooh,
Samuel Dalembert.
I love it.
All right.
So, Samuel Dalembert, to give you a top down of his career. He was the Sixers' first round pick following their 2001 NBA Finals defeat to the Lakers, which, of course, the greatest Game 1 win in NBA history. Allen Iverson.
Step over. Do you still have that Step Over t-shirt?
Of course I do.
That's such a good fucking t-shirt.
I could tell you exactly where it is. I could go into my room and grab it right now.
Oh my goodness. I mean, for the uninitiated, if there's anyone listening here that has not seen Justin Diaz's shirt multiple times, which if you know Justin Diaz is not true because you've definitely seen it multiple times, it's literally just a screen printed shot of Allen Iverson stepping over Ty Lue in Game 1 of the 2001 NBA Finals?
2001 NBA Finals. Yeah. And just
it's incredible.
The look of pure contempt on Iverson's face as he looks down at Lue, and Lue just looks so defeated, wow, I can't do shit about this.
Ty Lue. He's a championship caliber coach, and that's all anyone will ever remember about him.
Ty Lue would be a great guy to dive into at another time. But before I get too far down on sidebars, so following that 2001 NBA Finals defeat, the Sixers drafted Samuel Dalembert to be the young protege, learning behind Dikembe Mutombo to eventually become the shot blocking legend. So his first year, very sporadically plays. Obviously, the Sixers are still a team with some title aspirations at this point. Going into his second season, he blew his knee out in camp. So he ended up missing his whole second season. But when he came back for his third season, Mutombo had since moved on, and Dalembert became the starting center. Crazy thing about Samuel Dalembert. So of course, I forget exactly the year, but around, I want to say 2006 is when Iverson was traded to the Nuggets. So Dalembert played those first few years with Iverson. His career with the Sixers lasted long enough that when Iverson then came back for those like 15 games where, we acted like he was still Allen Iverson, but he really wasn't. But it was great. We had
You all
sentimental
got the
moments.
emotional catharsis that you needed from that moment, and then we all put it to rest.
He kissed the court. I remember him crying at his return press conference, and I couldn't tell you anything else about the what happened when he came back, because it ended right then. It was just a beautiful reunion.
Yeah.
But Sammy Dalembert stuck around with the Sixers for so long that he was still the team starting center when Iverson came back. At that point, spent essentially the entire decade of the aughts playing for the Sixers.
Now, if I may interject, the name sounds vaguely French. You said Hispaniola. Are we talking Dominican or are we talking Haitian?
Oh, so that's why I said Hispaniola. He is
Okay.
Haitian.
Okay.
Born in Port-au-Prince. He moved to Canada, not the state. He moved to Canada.
Did he move to Quebec?
When he where did he move? I had it right here. Yeah, he did move to Montreal.
It makes sense. It's staying French, man. Staying French.
Moved to Montreal at 14, and went to Lucien Paguet, I guess is how you would say that, for a bit. And then when he realized that this basketball thing could work out for him, he moved to New Jersey. So he played at St. Patrick High School in Elizabeth, New Jersey.
Why is everyone moving to fucking New Jersey today?
New Jersey has so many prep academies. It's insane. You go one block and there's another prep academy. For football or basketball, you either go to New Jersey or Virginia if you want to go to a prep academy.
Because the New Jersey thing is that they have the benefit of being close enough to Philly and New York City, where it's like, hey, do you want to be close to the city, but you don't want to pay city taxes?
I get that.
Got a state for you.
I get that.
So that's somewhat the appeal. And then he ended up going to Seton Hall. So he really, really, truly leaned into the New Jerseyness. And they got to stay somewhat local, playing with the Sixers. For those who do not remember, Samuel Dalembert was a center. And really just, he's almost the just the picture perfect, like 2000 center, where he was a ferocious rebounder, was a great shot blocker, never was in the top 5 in blocks in a season, but from my research, at least twice finished 6th in blocks. So never quite in that elite pantheon. But certainly
6th in blocks is like, you're arguably a top 6 center in the NBA, probably, if you're putting up 6 blocks. And that's second tier.
6th in blocks, I should say.
6th. Oh, okay.
6th in blocks.
I heard 6. No, I did not think he was making 6 blocks a game. I did hear 6th.
Dude, six blocks a game would be like, that's like Bill Russell territory pretty quickly.
That's the joke version of Dikembe Mutombo. Like, that's the fictionalized version of Dikembe Mutombo has 6 blocks a game.
Right. Where he did have 6 blocks a game. So this is another thing I wanted to bring up. On, I want to say NBA 2K2, Dalembert was tall enough that he could just basically block anything. And of course, you can't just block it at the rim on a jump shot. It's goaltending. But there was a glitch in that game where if you timed it just right on a free throw, it could be the first or the second free throw, you could take him off the low block and just reject the shit out of this free throw. And it was legal. And it would count to his blocks. So, like, I would just routinely get at least 20 blocks a game with Sammy Dalembert.
Let me tell you, you'd play me once ever, and I'd never fucking play you again. That's like, but that's incredible. I
would do it against a computer. You know, to me, the way I look at like exploiting glitches is like, if it's a single player experience, do whatever you want. That's fun. But when it gets to actual competition, like let's respect the norms a little bit here. But anyway, NBA 2K aside, let me put that aside. So he plays for the Sixers for the entire decade, basically. Ends up getting traded for Andres Nocioni and Spencer Hawes. Spencer Hawes, just
Spencer
one of the
Hawes
most,
is the very first Sixers game I went to.
just
When
one of the
Emily
most.
Croak just hooked us up with tickets out of nowhere.
Emily, oh, that was, I forgot.
Would love to
Remember
have her
that?
on
Their
here.
marketing.
Would love to have Emily Croak on here sometime.
We need to have Emily on and remember some girls.
Yes.
That would be perfect. But anyway, he after leaving the Sixers, very difficult for Mr. Dalembert, became the definition of a journeyman. Did not play more than one full season with any team for the rest of his career, although he did play for 5 more years in the NBA. So he bounced around, first to the Kings in the Spencer Hawes trade. Then he goes to the Houston Rockets. Then he goes to the Milwaukee Bucks. Finally plays for the Dallas Mavericks, and then goes to Xavier. Where did he go for his last NBA season?
If you're talking to me, I'm assuming he went to the Knicks, but I don't remember.
The New York Knicks. However,
The New York Knicks.
his playing career does not end there. Unfortunately, he did try to go back to the Mavericks, got an injury in preseason, wasn't able to make the team. But he played 2 more seasons in the CBA, not the Canadian Basketball League, the Chinese Basketball Association, for the Shanxi Zhongyu. Zhongyu means brave dragons. So he played 2 seasons in Shanxi. Was not able to win a title, unfortunately. And that was the end of his professional career. Very briefly, though, because, as we talked with Juan Agudelo, there's domestic, there's club, and then there's international. So international, Samuel Dalembert was the great Canadian hope once they were going to get his passport or his visa sorted, his citizenship. Once they got his citizenship sorted, Samuel Dalembert joined the Canadian team in hopes of making the 2008 Olympics, which was, of course, the Redeem Team, USA.
Yep.
We could go for hours debating the Redeem Team against the Dream Team, who would win. But meanwhile, just north of the border, they had some different dreams of just to make the tournament. And Samuel Dalembert, of course, steps right in international competition. He's able to dominate, particularly in the Americas, where center play can be lacking at times for a lot of the countries in the Americas beyond the United States. So in the FIBA Americas Championship, he led the tournament in blocks per game. So he did once with 2.4 blocks per game. He was able to claim the spot as the best at blocking shots, although he was frequently just on the periphery of that in the NBA. So he goes to the pre-Olympic qualifying tournament in 2008. 2 resounding victories against Lebanon and New Zealand. So they're looking great. They're looking very primed to enter the Olympic qualifying tournament until Samuel Dalembert was dismissed from the team because of a rift between him and the coach, Leo Routens. Could not find any more information on this rift. But I would love Sammy, Leo, if either of you are listening, I'd love to know how Sammy went from being the great hope of getting Canada to the Olympics to being dismissed from the team.
The original Maple Jordan, which I guess I can't think of a good Wilt Maperlin. Is this anything?
Wilt Maperlin? I like that.
Yeah.
It's close. I like some wordplay. It's a forced portmanteau. It's a poor man's toe. It's a poor man's toe.
God damn it, that was good. God damn it, that was good.
I gotta say, if I ever do have kids one day, I'm gonna step in right away with elite dad joke. If I had a 2K rating, I'm at 95 already. I'm very proud of that. But just one last thing about Mr. Dalembert to show, it goes beyond the court. Obviously, Haiti, unfortunately, has, get perpetually fucked by earthquakes. But Sammy Dalembert is one of the leading people to donate in the aftermath of those. He actually received in 2009, 2010, the J. Walter Kennedy Citizenship Award for his contributions to the Haitian people after the earthquake. Since then, has continued to be loyal to his birthplace, helping out, every 2 or 3 years when another devastating earthquake ruins everything that they've built back. Thankfully, Sammy is there to still help. So that's my guy this week. That's Samuel Dalembert. Played 15 years in the NBA, which just goes to show the value of being tall.
What is it, like 70% of people that are taller than 6'9", like, have at least talked to someone about that? There's some statistic that it's an insane. As soon as you hit that height, it's just an insane percentage of people playing professional basketball.
It was at least double-digit percentage of everybody who grows to be 7 foot or higher makes it to the NBA.
Okay. God damn. That's buck wild. Just statistically.
The rest become volleyball players, I would assume. But
volleyball, what are some other good? Hey, every once in a while, a good downhill throwing pitcher. You need a good downhill throwing pitcher with those big crane legs. Ali G. Willikers, just a bunch of big old guys. I appreciate that both of yours were like both very, very bright and then still lingered for a while. I have to admit, my guy, the tail of his career is a little bit briefer. But I do want to tell you about the person that should have won 2009 AL Rookie of the Year. I will go to my grave telling you that the person we are going to get to is the 2009 AL Rookie of the Year. It is an Oriole, as you might guess. 2009 was a lot like what I'm expecting the 2022 Orioles season to be like. I do believe that it is going to be a repeat of seeing just rookies thrown at the wall with genuine hope, whereas the last couple of years we've had rookies thrown at the wall because the Mike Elias and the Angelos are still forced to play 162 games of baseball, although they'd rather not. That's okay, because next year we're going to try, just like we were starting to try in 2009. That being said, it was a rough roster at the start of the year. When your top two pitchers are Jeremy Guthrie and already at this point in 2009, veteran presence Rich Hill.
Hill.
He was a grizzled veteran in 2009. Like, that's how he was being presented to us. And is he in the playoffs still right now? I can't remember who he pitched with this year, but he was
with the Rays.
He's still in the league. Yeah, he's still absolutely in the league.
No, definitely not in the playoffs because he's with the Mets now.
Oh yeah.
Last year he was on the Rays.
He started the season with the Rays.
Mr. Dick Mountain. Yeah.
Was traded for Tommy Hunter.
Tommy Hunter, another, I believe also, no, Tommy Hunter comes along in 2011 because Tommy Hunter is part of a trade. So we started with Jeremy Guthrie and Rich Hill and pretty much nothing else for pitching. And so we just started bringing up rookies, both pitchers and hitters. We had 6 rookie pitchers get starts. 5 of them won their debuts. If we had gotten one more, we would have broken the MLB record for most rookies winning their starting debuts. And the only one that lost is probably going to be the one that you would recognize the name of the most. Chris Tillman was the one that lost his debut. But other than that, we had some absolute luminaries. Jason Birkin, erstwhile Philly David Hernandez. Long time only can pitch against left-handers Brian Mattis. The season's WAR leader on this team, Brad Bergeson, who just I also considered for this, but just isn't fun enough because it happens this once and then he's never part of anything else. But he did pass Nick Markakis and Adam Jones this season to be the WAR leader for the Baltimore Orioles. Koji Uehara.
Never heard of any of those guys.
Yeah, Koji Uehara, who is a World Series champion with the Boston Red Sox. He was a starter. He came to the Orioles because he was told he would be a starter, and then we moved him to the bullpen like halfway through the season. The other really big rookie that came up this year, at least with hype, was a rookie whose debut I got to be at completely accidentally, and I had tickets to this game, and it was actually announced during Chris Tillman's debut, which I was at, so I didn't hear this announcement, but on the broadcast, Andy McPhail, who was the GM at the time, he comes on and says, Matt Wieters will be premiering soon. So we go, and Matt Wieters comes up. We beat the Tigers that night. I actually, my biology teacher threw out the first pitch that night because he had been the Baltimore City Teacher of the Year.
What was his name?
Congratulations.
Oh my goodness. It was Nicholas Greer. Nicholas Greer.
Shout out Mr. Greer.
Shouts to Nick Greer, great dude.
What a guy.
Not an Orioles fan, I believe. I think he might have been a Red Sox. No, Dennis Jutras, who was our history teacher, was a. We don't need to talk about that.
Nobody's perfect.
But while watching Nick Greer throw out that first pitch, I was on the flag court. Gave up my spot to someone on the flag court when I then went to go sit with friends. That guy did catch a Luke Scott grand slam later, which ended up winning the game, so that hurt a little bit. It was a season of a lot of hurt, but there was one bright spot, and that was the person that I was determined to campaign for 2009 AL Rookie of the Year, and it was not Matt Wieters. It was a guy by the name of Nolan Gallagher Reimold. Nolan Reimold. Y'all ever heard of Nolan Reimold?
The name sounds so familiar.
If I had to ask you about the Orioles outfield from like the late 2000s to the mid 2010s, center field, it's Adam Jones. Right field, it's Nick Markakis. Left field was a fucking revolving door. We started this season with a guy, Felix P.A., who does at one point in his career hit for the cycle, which is great. And it should tell you all you need to know about his career, that really the only thing I have to say is that he hit for the cycle once. Nolan Reimold comes up one point during 2009 because of an injury to Felix P.A., and he stays with the team the whole time. He had been a second-round pick in 2005 by the Orioles. He's the second highest ever pick out of Bowling Green State University, where he had played in the MAC, some MACtion. In 2005, before he gets drafted, he slashed 360 batting average, 496 OPS, 720 slugging. He led in all three of those categories. And the only reason that he did not win the Triple Crown was that he was like 3 RBIs short of a teammate of his. So, by far the best offensive player in that conference that year. So he gets drafted by the Orioles. And he's bouncing around to their Hawaiian Fall and Winter League. At one point, he's playing with this Hawaiian team that also has Matt Wieters and Justin Smoke. Fun fact about Justin Smoke. Justin Smoke was a big character in the home run race in the Nippon League this year. Like, Justin Smoke was leading the league halfway through the season with 20-something dingers in the Nippon Leagues this year.
I love that about the Nippon League, because it'll be what happened to this guy that all he ever did was hit home runs? And then you look, it's like, oh my God, he's like
all he's doing
in Nippon.
He's just fucking raking.
KBO.
Matt Stairs is a guy.
KBO too.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly. KBO, you got Eric Thames coming back. We had Wei-Yin Chen was probably Wei-Yin Chen might have been the best Orioles pitcher that I've gotten to see for an extended period of time in my life, which is not great. But we're not talking about pitching. We're talking about Nolan Reimold. Nolan Reimold goes off the season. He has a great season. He plays 104 games. 104 games. Bats 279, 365 OBP, 466 slugging. I immediately latched onto them, and this is partially because I was in high school and I wanted to be a contrarian little piece of shit. And everyone was like, Matt Wieters. I was like, hey, Matt Wieters is great, but Nolan Reimold. Have you considered?
However, if I can interject.
Nolan Reimold is the first player I ever made a sign for that I brought to the game, trying to get on TV. I said it was rhyme time spelled Tim, or Teim, because it is Reimold, Reimold. It was pretty dumb. I did not get on the. I have since gotten on the big screen many times and on the broadcast a couple times, but that's only because I have ended up accidentally knowing people that worked for them. So I feel like it's a little bit cheating now. Anywho. Nolan Reimold has this season, and it was, I think, the peak of feeling like being an Orioles fan was just kind of futile in general. Like, because here was this guy succeeding, and I was certain I was watching a star being born. Despite the fact that during his rookie season, he was actually the oldest of the 3 starting outfielders. He was older than Adam Jones by about a year and had like a couple weeks on Nick Markakis during his rookie season. But I was still so certain. I'm like, okay, we've got a full outfield now. This is great. The Orioles are now locked in at those 3 spots. I mean, we took the opening series from the Yankees in the beginning of 2009, and I think that made it one of the first years I was like, maybe we'll do something. Maybe the Orioles will start to matter again. And I was only off by a couple of years. It was not that year.
Orioles do that a lot, don't they? I feel like first series.
We led the division for more days than the Blue Jays and the Yankees combined this year. We led the division for 8 days.
That's a hell of a stat.
Yankees only led the division for a single day this year. So really, we should have gotten the second wild card spot, is what I'm saying.
Mathematically speaking, you're 8 times.
Mathematically speaking, baby. Yeah, so I believe he's Dallas Braden. I'm fairly certain is the winner of the 2009 AL. I'm actually going to double check on that.
Dallas Braden.
But the 2 position players are who I wanted to specifically compare him to, because it's Elvis Andrus. And look, I'm going to go ahead and say I am very much a fan of Elvis Andrus. It's Andrew Bailey of the Oakland Athletics, who has very similar Dallas Braden vibes, I think, but it was Andrew Bailey. He's got Dallas Braden vibes, but he's Andrew Bailey, and then it's Elvis Andrus and Gordon Beckham. Nolan Reimold leads all rookie position players in WAR. Period. Like, he leads all of them in that. He led both of them in all slash stats. Elvis Andrus played, Elvis Andrus was a full-time player from pretty much the start of the year. He played 145 games. Nolan Reimold played 104, and not only in that, he out-earned him in WAR despite a 40-game difference. It was just like, and I remember seeing some articles at the end. I was like, oh, well, if we were doing Rookie of the Year for the rookie we think has the most potential, then maybe they'd mention Matt Wieters. A couple people even mentioned Brad Bergeson going back there. But it just felt insane to me that no one was mentioning Nolan Reimold. And then the next year, 2010, I kind of got shown why. He sucks. He just, there's no way around it. He sucks in 2010. And he's just really, really poor. Ends up ceding a lot of that time back to Felix PA. And then the next season in 2011 doesn't really get any easier. We don't pull any more left fielders in, but it's really the 2 of them splitting it. Neither of them ever distinguishes themselves. But in 2011, he does become part of a quintessential moment in the legend of Orioles futility. And he kind of gets forgotten about this one in a little bit, but I think it's just important. It is the final day of the 2011 baseball season. The Boston Red Sox have been collapsing for a month, and it's a beautiful thing to see. The Rays have been red hot for a month, and it's an acceptable thing to see if it makes Red Sox fans unhappy, which it was very much doing. So that's great. We'll take it. And the Red Sox come to order. And that poverty franchise is dismantled by just a bunch of fucking goobers in orange and black under Buck Showalter, finishing out what is going to be a pretty shitty 69 and 93 season all in all. But in this moment, in this final game, after rain delays, after slowly watching this extra innings game in Tampa, it's 2 outs in the bottom of the 9th. The Red Sox lead. And Chris Davis, and this is 2011 Chris Davis, so this is like 2 years removed from being Chris Davis. But Chris Davis comes up, having come over from that Koji Uehara trade from the Texas Rangers. He doubles. He's on second now. And now, the tying run is on second. The go-ahead run is at the plate. And that person is Nolan Reimold. Nolan Reimold is the second hit in this sequence, and you might be familiar with the next person who's going to come up in a second, but Nolan Reimold is the one that ties the game. Nolan Reimold laces another double to the outfield. Chris Davis scampers on home. We've got a tie game. We're going to extras no matter what. Now, it is time for Robert Andino. And this is often called the curse of the Andino because Robert Andino, he absolutely smokes a beautiful single that scores Reimold. Reimold is the game-tying RBI and the game-winning run in this beautiful game that sends Red Sox fans home unhappy. And now I'm like, okay, we saw 2009. 2009 was real. 2010 was tough. But this is where we're going to turn things around for Nolan Reimold. My Nolan Reimold stock from 2009 had taken a dip, but I was almost ready to sell. I was almost ready to sell, but in this moment, I was absolutely buying it up. I was like, hey, you remember how I told you about Nolan Reimold? Dude, like, come on, I called Nolan Reimold a couple of years ago, and at the beginning of 2012, I look prescient. He is like absolutely knocking the leather off the ball in 2012 before he suffers from a herniated disc. And this is the beginning of it. This disc becomes a problem. He does not come back in 2012. Even in 2013, he's struggling. He ends up actually going away from the team for a while. He's waived by the Orioles. He spent some time with the Toronto system, spent some time with Arizona. And it's like he's rushed back from this herniated disc thing is really the thing. And really kind of re-aggravates it and has been very frank about this. Like he is upset with the medical staff that cleared him. And not the Orioles medical staff. He was upset with the venerable Baltimore institution Johns Hopkins. Their sports doctors were the ones that were involved with this, and he was really fucking understandably pissed because it complete like he never comes back to that 2012 form. He does eventually come back to Baltimore in 2015 as we know, the window's winding down. At the time, I thought the window would last forever, but the window's winding down in 2015. He does get a spring training assignment, and he plays a little bit of September, so he's with the franchise again. And 2016, he does come back. In 2016, he's with the team the whole year. 2016, again, we didn't know at the time, but it was the last good Orioles season. And he plays 104 games, the most he has played since his rookie season when he played 104 games. Something a little beautiful, I think, about that. But he's 32 years old and he's got a 78 OPS plus in left field. The writing's on the wall, and that is his last. That's his last MLB season. He does something with the Long Island Ducks Independent League for another year after that, and then after that he wraps it up. But because that seems kind of sad and kind of a downer, there's one very fun thing that I do want to mention. Not a fun thing, but just a nice ending. In 2015, he does go ahead and sue Johns Hopkins Hospital, and they do settle out of court. And he does get a very large lump sum. The terms have never been described, but he's been determined. He's been described as being satisfied with the restitution that he received for a medical diagnosis or medical treatment that probably didn't ruin like quite the career I was expecting, but a big problem with those Orioles. We had a lot, we had guys like Nate McLough, very speedy. We had Nelson Cruz for a season. We should have kept Nelson Cruz, but that left field spot, it was always a matter of having to fill it. And I was so certain in 2009 we had those three. You could not have told me that there was any outcome other than at least 5 good seasons of knowing who our 3 outfielders were. I was so on board with Nolan, Gallagher, Reimold. And got us like, hey, I was wrong, but that's Nolan Reimold. He is. I have never irrationally, I think, loved a player that much. I don't think I've ever loved a player that now looking back with like what I know about, people that don't make the league until they're decent left fielders at 25 or 26. Now I know how that trajectory normally works. Not quite as surprising, but it was a tough one for young James to move past that. So that was a hometown hero that I truly thought we'd have a lot more to see with.
But that's still like, I love that. Like he's always going to be significant in like the annals of baseball history.
Yeah,
got the game tying RBI and scored the game winning run in one of the craziest like game 162 scenarios like I think we've ever seen, really, because both those games were happening like same time, right?
It was absolutely simultaneous. I have a little bit of the time written down because they started right around the same time, and it's 3-2 in the seventh in Oriole Park at Camden Yards. They're technically, fun fact, the ballpark is technically a different entity from the stadium Camden Yards area around it legally. There is Oriole Park at Camden Yards. Anywho, that's when the hour and 26-minute rain delay begins. And during that hour and 26 rain delay is when the Yankees blow a 7-0 lead that they have in the eighth. 6 runs in the bottom of the eighth are scored by Tampa. Evan Longoria, then he's got a 3-run homer in that inning that makes it 7-6. In the ninth inning, and this is still during the rain delay in Baltimore, in the ninth inning, Dan Johnson, who was never once a starter in his 10-year career in the majors, is the pinch hitting, I believe, catcher for the Rays in this moment. He ties it with a solo shot before Longoria walks it off 4 innings later. And that is happening immediately. Like, they tie and go to extra innings, and that is when the ball game resumes in Baltimore. And again, Chris Davis came up with 2 outs and 2 strikes. He hit that double just as Dan Johnson hit his solo shot with 2 strikes in the ninth with 2 outs. Like, both of those were the last strike of the game. Absolutely incredible. God, I love a good playoff race. Would love to be a part of one someday.
I remember, so now like you mentioned all that, I actually remember exactly where I was when all that was going down. I was at the Temple University Tech Center on a computer working on some paper, but the person next to me had both games up, so I was obviously pretty distracted there.
Oh yeah, this would have been like, this is first semester freshman year. This is early Temple. Yeah. You're probably doing something for Professor Pongan. For what do we have? Conversational review?
Oh. Yeah, dude, that was like...
¿Reviste de conversación?
Fue el A más fácil que he ganado en mi vida. That was so easy.
My goodness. Anyway, Nolan Reimold is my guy. What a guy. Yeah, so there we go. Those are some phenomenal guys to remember. I guess we do have to pick who's our ultimate guy this week.
So
I will admit,
I think it has to be Reimold.
Here's what I'm going to say: the Haitian philanthropy angle. The Haitian philanthropy angle got me there at the end with Dalembert.
Full circle.
Yeah, that was pretty tempting. Nolan Reimold is in the middle of so many wonderful things. I wonder. I hesitate to say my own guy because I know that part of that is just the context that he's in and not necessarily him. But also, it's just like an RBI. You got to do what the context presents you with sometimes.
Exactly. To me, it's a coin flip. So I would defer to the neutral opinion here, which would be Xavier.
Well, I will.
I'm leaning Reimold. I think it's Reimold.
And
I think James's passion for Reimold has won me over.
The rhyme time sign. It was on like cheap butcher paper that I found with all of the rest of the packing, like the wrapping paper. I didn't think about it until like 20 minutes before I was getting on a bus to go to the game. It was a bad sign, and so you know what? In my head, I'm going to just remember that sign. And that's going to be the trophy that I accept. I will graciously accept the nomination for Nolan Reimold being that guy this week. Which means I guess I have to think of what's a good topic for next week.
That's why, admittedly, I was a little more comfortable with you winning because I realized that I was like, I did not think about a category at all.
I did think about one. And you guys actually, kind of reinforced it. I wanted to talk about international competitors. I want to talk about like a guy that is really centered around like some intrinsic international competition. So that is my challenge for you, Diaz, and Xavier, or another guest if we have them next time. But someone that is I want your moment, your connection to them to be some beautiful international competition. So that is my challenge for our next time.
I think I already know what I'm doing.
I have a pretty good idea, but we'll see. We'll see next time. Xavier, if you don't join us next time, thank you so much for being here. And remembering some guys with us.
As long as you two will have me, I'll keep showing up.
Wonderful. Well, I'm happy to bring more people on, but at the same time, I'm happy to keep our good buddy X with here as well. And so the next time we all get together, we'll have some lovely international competitors. Diaz, anything else you want to add here before I've got a final name for you if you just want to appreciate one last one of those on the way out?
Give me the name.
Okay, the final name before we wrap up and send out here. Current member of the San Antonio Spurs organization, Quindary Weatherspoon. That is 2019 49th overall pick by the San Antonio Spurs. Recently re-signed to a 2-way contract. Quindary Weatherspoon. And I think that's all for this week, guys. Thank you for anyone that has tuned in other than the three of us to remember those guys. If anyone's listening to this and wants to send his stuff in, we got an email, rememberingguys@gmail.com. If you want to send in any other guys for us to listen to, we'd love to hear what others have to say. Until next time, I've been James, and this has been Remember That Guy. Diaz, any last sign-off?
Don't forget, guys don't have to be male.
I like that. We're gonna tool together everything that we've said, and the next time it's gonna be significantly cleaner. And this time we're just gonna have an awkward cut to whatever music I've ended this with. As remember that, hey, gender's a social construct. Goodbye.
This is just a game.